Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iddah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulil Kareem. أسأل الله أن يوفقنا لما يحب ويرضى أن ينفعنا ما علمنا بما ينفعنا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما أعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا اللهم آتنا نفوسنا تقواها وزكيها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها اللهم امشيخنا أما بعد. All the praises and thanks belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the worlds. And may Allah's peace and blessings be upon His final prophet and messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's the best example to follow, and he's the example that we follow. And we're talking about today the iddah, the buffer period, where a woman that she goes through where she separates from her husband. And this is in the Hanbali school, in the school of Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, as explained in the book Al-Umdah by Ibn Qudamah. So this is the lesson we have today. There's a lot of issues pertaining to that on the iddah. That's the term that's for it, and it's the iddah period. That's what that's referred to, a time frame that a woman goes through when she gets divorced. And so let's go through the different points. I'll read the first one. I'm here joined with Sheikh Lisan, Honorable Brother Sheikh Lisan, in Grand Prairie, Texas. And it's June of 2025 in the Gregorian calendar, and that's what we're doing this. And I pray, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for all the people listening to this lesson, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase you in the beneficial knowledge, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you a lot of reward and accept. Ameen, Ya Allah. Okay, Sheikh Lisan, you'll read the first point. Yes.
ولا عدة على من فارقها زوجها في الحياة قبل المسيس والخلوة.
Yes, so it's a very interesting point. You'll read the next thing also. This is ayah in the Quran.
لقول الله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نكحتم المؤمنات ثم طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن فما لكم عليهن من عدة تعتدونها في سورة الأحزاب.
Yes, good, inshallah. So this is a very interesting point on the iddah. If a person, they marry a woman, and then before consummating the marriage, before having the intimacy or the sexual relation, they divorce her, they separate from her, and she does not have an iddah. She does not have a buffer period between it, and that's mentioned explicitly in that ayah in Surah Al-Ahzab. So you believe if you marry women and then divorce them without touching them, then there's no iddah to be counted, and there's no waiting period in that time. And what that means is the woman, she can immediately marry somebody else. She doesn't have to wait for that buffer period to get married to somebody else. And she's not in a state of in that case where they didn't fulfill the marriage. So there's no iddah for the woman in that particular case. That's the ayah that's mentioned, that's over there. And the iddah is in Islam, what happens is when a person, they divorce the wife, it's not that's it, that the divorce is finalized and they separate. Because something it might happen out of one night event or something like that happens and they're separated for good. That's not what happens. What happens is the woman has an iddah, a buffer period, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained, where the divorce is not finalized until the iddah is over. So that's the case for it. So that's what it talks about. But in this case here, when a person, if they get married to somebody, to a woman, and they don't consummate the marriage, then she doesn't have an iddah. And then the dowry, she gets to keep half of it and he keeps half of it. That's the ruling for it. If they marry a woman and they divorce her before they have the intimacy together, before they consummate the marriage. All right, so there's no iddah for a woman if she is if they separate before the intimacy. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah.
When it says wal-khalwa, does that mean that they have to be alone?
Yes, in the majority of ulama, they say to have the sexual intercourse together. In the Hanafi school, they say when they're alone together.
So really, even here it says قبل المسيس والخلوة. So is it also in the Hanbali school that if they just have khalwa, this is enough?
Yes, it says that also in the Hanbali school, if they're intimate together, not necessarily having the sexual relation.
So does
I believe so.
khalwa
That's
just mean like, for example, if they're just alone together or something?
right. Yeah, intimate together, you could say. It doesn't mean just like if nobody else is around and in the room for a few seconds and stuff like
Not
that.
for a few seconds, but like
Doesn't mean
where it's
intimate.
possible for them to be.
Right,
Yeah.
yes, when they're intimate together. There's sometimes, what happens is maybe the woman's in menstruation or something like that, and they get together, they do everything except having the sexual relation, then they consider that to be the consummating of the marriage as well.
Even then.
That's what, so the ulama, they differed on that to the extent, but that's what they say in some law. And I believe in the Hanbali school, they say the same thing. They say, I think it's going to talk about that later on, that if they had the
But
intimacy
in
together.
general, the idea is if you haven't like been together and been intimate and so on,
Right, yes.
then there's no iddah for you to count.
Yes. So what they do is usually they have the contract of the marriage, and then they have the next step where they have the sexual relation, and so usually they go through. Even nowadays in the culture that you have, they go through the two steps. They do the aqd of nikah, the contract of marriage, and sometimes they wait several months or things like that before they do the intimacy together.
Sure. And let me ask you, Sheikh, about this.
Yes.
What if the woman, you do the aqd, you do the nikah only,
Yes.
the contract, but you don't
Yes.
consummate yet, and then he
Yes.
passes away.
Yes.
Then the iddah is there still, yes.
I believe so. Yes, that was in the other lesson.
covered it
that
the other
if
way, yeah.
even if they didn't have the sexual relation, she has to,
The mourning period, the
yeah,
iddah
so
she'll
the
have to
mourning
go through.
period. That's the case, and she gets a full inheritance too, in
Yes.
that case. Because once they do the contract, they're considered to be married.
Yeah.
They just, they didn't consummate the marriage. But once the consummation is done, then she keeps the full dowry, once that's done.
Yep.
But before the consummation, she's still considered to be the wife, and then, so those things apply in those
Okay.
cases too.
So, okay, so now the types of iddah are four.
Yes.
فإحداهن أولات الأحمال فعدتهن أولات الأحمال
Mm-hmm.
فعدتهن أن يضعن حملهن.
Yes.
The first is a pregnant woman, her iddah is till she gives birth.
That's right, yes. So what happens is, that's what's mentioned in the Quran, وَأُولَاتِ أَحْمَالِ
أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن.
So what happens is, if she's pregnant and the person they pronounce the divorce on her, then their iddah is when she gives birth to the child. If it's 9 months later, then that's the iddah, or it's even 1 day later, that's her iddah.
That's right, yeah.
And then once she gives birth to the child, then she can get married to somebody else. So that's a specific rule for a woman that is
pregnant.
that's pregnant and that's a child. Some of the ulama, they say that maybe wait more than 9 months. That's what some of the ulama they say.
Depending on when the child is being born, yeah.
Right, yes. But nowadays, scientifically, they say that it's 9 months is like, it's overdue, it's not premature, the baby. So it's not going to be more than 9 months. But in the past, in some of the ulama, they said it's possible that the woman might be pregnant for more than 9 months. So that's a ruling that they gave. So that's the case. And I mean, nowadays, too, they can determine if the woman is pregnant or not also.
Yes.
So with those things, so if she's pregnant, and
You
her
have to wait
husband
until
divorces her,
the
and then the iddah is when she gives birth to the child. That's
ولو
her iddah.
كانت حاملا بتوامين what is that?
To'am is twins.
توامين
Yes.
بتوامين لم تنقض عدتها حتى تضع الثاني منهما.
Yes. So if she has twins and she's giving birth to two child, then the iddah is when she gives birth to the second one, both of them. Not just the first one, and then, she's still carrying the second one. She has to give birth to, both of the, if she has twins, she gives birth to both of them, then the iddah is over after both of them in that scenario. And the Sheikh, he lived, a time where there was a lot of people. And nowadays, you have a lot of people, a lot of Muslims in the world, billions of Muslims in the world, so definitely you're going to have those scenarios where you have twins and, where this would apply. So, that would be the case also. So he mentions that if they're going to have twins, then when she gives birth to both of them, both of the babies, and then that's when it is over. All right, you read number 3.
والحمل الذي تنقضى به العدة وتصير به الأمة أم ولد يتبين فيه خلق الإنسان.
Yes. So So what happens is sometimes it's questionable, is the woman really pregnant with a child or not, or she's going to really give birth to a child. So it could be that she has, she's not giving birth to a child. And sometimes the issue comes up, she
Miscarriage.
right, the miscarriage comes out, so she doesn't give birth to a child. So that wouldn't be that case that she gave birth to a child. It has to be a clear child that she gives birth to. Then that's the iddah in that scenario. In the case of a miscarriage, then you have to look at the other, the other iddah periods for that. Not in the case for
I see.
when she.
So, for example, if a woman was pregnant,
yes,
and then let's say the husband divorces her,
yes,
and then she miscarries.
right, yes,
So, in the case that she miscarries, we have to look at the child, whether it was like a human
right,
child,
yes,
or if it did not look fully
Yes.
formed.
right, yes,
Then, in that case, if the child was not fully formed in her iddah, you have to fall onto some other
right,
category.
yes,
It cannot
yes.
be the pregnancy category.
Right,
I never
yes.
thought about that. SubhanAllah.
Yes, that's the thing also, they say that it's 80 days usually, 80 days where the child, where it takes the form of a child, and before 80 days it doesn't take the form of a child. And they say also
80 days is like what, 11, 12 weeks?
80
No.
days is,
Yeah.
that's about 12 weeks,
12
11 and a half weeks or so. That's what they say for the child. And they also say if the bleeding after that, if it's more than the 80 days, then it's considered to be nifas. The nifas of bleeding. If it's less than the 80 days, then it's considered to be istihada, the abnormal bleeding. So that's a ruling that they have also when the woman, she miscarries. So that's the issue. So that's what the Sheikh, he says over here. It's if she actually gives birth to a child that's formed as a child, not in the miscarriage where it's before, where it's not the form of a child, that doesn't count as the iddah in that case. Yep. All right, let's go to the number.
الثاني اللاتي توفى أزواجهن يتربصن 4 أشهر وعشرا.
Yes.
The second, those whose husband they die, they have to wait 4 months and 10 days.
Right, yes. And so the woman, her husband passes away, the iddah period is 4 months and 10 days. She waits for that for her iddah before she can get married to somebody else. And that's her iddah for a widow that passes away. But that's it. We have that lesson coming up right next after that.
والإماء على النصف من ذلك, and the slave women, they have to do half of that.
Right, yes. So for a slave woman, they take the Sheikh, he mentions they take usually half the ruling as a
2 months
person.
and 5 days.
And that's mentioned in the Quran, that a lot of different things for the slave person, they get a half. And the same thing here in this case, the iddah is half as much. It's not 4 months and 10 days, it's half that, 2 months and 5 days. And the same thing for the other cases where you have 3 menstrual cycles, they say 2 menstrual cycles for the slave. And also they have, for a slave woman, the time is less than a free woman. So he mentions that over here for the slave woman, it's half the time for the free woman. Okay, let's go to
وما
number
قبل
9.
المسيس وما بعده سواء, and whatever, it doesn't matter whether he touch or doesn't touch, meaning consummate or not consummate the marriage. For the widow, it's the same.
Yes,
I
so
asked
the
this
person,
question.
you asked that previously.
Yeah.
So if for the widow where her husband dies, it doesn't have to be after the consummation. Even before the consummation, she
Or
has to
after,
wait
it's the same.
4 months and 10 days if her husband dies. In the case that he's still alive and he doesn't touch her, then there's no iddah for her.
Right.
But if he dies, then she's still considered his wife, considered to be the widow, and she has to wait 4 months and 10 days. That's what the Sheikh says there.
الثالث المطلقات من ذوات القروء يتربصن بأنفسهن 3 قروء.
Yes.
The divorced that has periods has to wait for 3 periods.
Yes, that's mentioned in the Quran that the iddah is thalatha quru, 3 menstrual cycles. And the way that the ulama, they look at it, the cycle starts on the previous one.
Yes.
So, so that's interesting. You got to look at that also. It's not in the future one, so it counts as, in the first one is, she's already in the first one.
Right.
Then you got 2 more, and then it's 3 menstrual cycles. So that's the way they look at it. So that's for the women that menstruates, then you wait 3 menstrual cycles. And many of the ulama, they say that that's to make sure that the woman is not pregnant. So some of the people, they say that that's the wisdom behind
But
it.
it could be, Sheikh, that then it's not really 3 months as much as maybe 2.5 months or maybe even 2
Right,
months.
yes. Because, you know, if you look at the other books, and they say that it counts from the previous menstrual cycle.
Okay.
Now, the future, the first time she menstruates, that becomes like the second menstrual cycle that she has.
Right.
And then the third time, so
She
then it
menstruates,
becomes
that would be
3.
the third time, right?
That's what they say. So 3 menstrual cycles. Thalathata quru, it's mentioned in the Quran, that she waits 3 cycles, you know, for menstruation. So that's a woman that has a menstruation. Okay, and then number 10.
وَالْأَمَةِ حَيْضَتَانِ. And for the slave woman,
Yes.
her quru for the divorced woman is 2 periods, not 3
Yes,
periods.
yes. The slave, they have slave woman, there's less usually. There's a lot of rulings for the slave where it's less.
So
But
really
this
for
one
her,
had 2.
actually, the previous one will count, and then the next time
Yes,
she's
yes.
on her period, khalas, it's done.
Right, yes. It's a little bit less
It's
for
kind of
her.
short. It's pretty short, actually, quite
Yes.
short.
Yes, I mean, for the slave, that's what happens, you know, for them, for the slave. And, you know, the man, he can have 4 wives, you know, but slave woman, he can have as many as he wants, you know.
Right.
And then he can sell them, and then she'll be to somebody else. So that's why, you know, the rulings are a little bit different for them.
Right.
That's what the Sheikh, he said. And he was, Ahmad, Imam Ahmad, the school of Imam Ahmad, he studied the ilm and the hadith, and also not just in the explicit text, but also the people that lived in the time of Prophet Muhammad, the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, you know, the different rulings that they went by, and that's the knowledge that they had. So this is the rulings that they came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sure. So the slave woman waits 2 menstrual cycles, and the free woman 3 menstrual cycles.
Okay.
Or ones that menstruate.
So الرابع, the fourth is اللائي يئسن من المحيض فعدتهن 3 أشهر.
Yes. So for a woman that stopped menstruating, the menopause they call it, then she waits 3 months. 3 months she waits the thalatha shuhur.
Yep. واللائي, so 3 months from the time of the talaq, huh?
Yes. Yes.
So from the moment of the talaq, she'll wait 3 months.
3 months is her iddah.
3 complete months, or like say if it's like, you know, the 5th of Dhul Hijjah, then you would wait the 5th of 3 months after that, like that.
Yeah, just 3 months. It doesn't have to be after that more than 3 months. And that's what it says in the Quran. And some of the months they have 29 days, some they have 30 days. So you can buy the lunar months if you want to be specific, you know, the 3 months for it, 3 lunar months after that. Yeah.
And then واللائي لم يحضن, and the ones
Yes.
that do not menstruate,
Right, yes.
they also have to wait 3 months.
Yeah, so this is the case that maybe a woman in her lifetime, she had a circumstance where she never reached her menstruation, and then she reached the bulugh at the age of 15, they say. If she never menstruated, then maybe her life she didn't menstruate, so that might be the case. Even the younger woman too, that's the case in Islam.
Perhaps,
It's allowed.
yeah, no, as one can be a baligh and they never
Yes,
menstruate.
yes.
Or perhaps
So-
they have some issue,
yes.
they don't menstruate.
No, the thing is, in Islam, it's allowed to marry younger women, but she has to go by the guardian. You know, they can't do it on their own. Over here in America, when people they hear about that, the impression that they have is what they see in America, where there's a lot of child abuse and things like that, where people they do that, and the first thing that comes into mind when there's an older man with a younger woman, that they're doing things without the permission,
You're doing zina.
without the real marriage. But you know what happens is the younger woman, they can get married, but they have to have, you know, they can't get married without the permission of their father.
Right.
You know, the father is the wali, and if somebody does that, then in Islam, that person is stoned to death.
Right.
Stoned to death. So the impression that people they have, they see somebody doing that, and they think that he's doing the zina. But in Islam, if somebody does that, they're stoned to death.
Right. Or
No,
at least
yeah.
if they're not married, then at least they're lashed 100 times, right?
Right, yes. But usually that's the impression they have when they see somebody older. You know, it's like that. They're stoned to death if that happens. You know, the thing is, people, they try to badmouth the deen and they say this about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But back then, that was the custom that people, they used to marry younger, they had arranged marriages, and always it was a legitimate marriage where the father had to be there, and it's his job, the job of the father, to make sure that his daughter gets married to somebody that's good and not somebody that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And back then that was the norm, that people, they used to get married at a younger age and things like that.
And of course, the requirements of the marriage have to be fulfilled. There has to be a
Yes.
mahar, there has to
Yes,
be
exactly.
the ijab wa qabul, there has to be
Yes,
offer
yes.
and acceptance, there has to be the father,
Right, and then you have to
and the
make
mahar,
sure.
and the mahar, and the witnesses.
Yes, you have to have the wali, he has to have his permission, his approval of the marriage. And it's a legitimate marriage, it's not something that's outside of that. So people that say these things, that their cultures are different, and the thing is, what happens is people, they don't like Islam, so they try to badmouth it, so they say these things over here, but in the reality, there's nothing wrong with that, for a person, they do that. People, they have different cultures, so people, they marry at different ages. They don't have to marry at a later age, as long as you do it the right way, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And Allah says that father, he's got to make sure that it's appropriate for his daughter,
Right.
the one that he takes care of, to get married in a good way, and then it's a legitimate marriage. And in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he loved Aisha so much, his wife, and that was his love of his life, for his whole life, and that was his wife. So anybody that says that is completely mistaken on what's right and wrong, on what's appropriate in the marriage. Okay, inshallah, so that's the same thing over here. If a woman doesn't menstruate, وَاللَّاتِي لَمْ يَحِضْنَ, then the iddah is 3 months. It's not the 3 menstrual cycles, because she's never going to menstruate, right? Because she doesn't menstruate. So how are you going to wait the 3 menstrual cycles? Then they'll never end on it.
Right.
So you have
if
3 months.
If she's not menstruating, or she did not menstruate before, or
Right,
currently
yes.
is not menstruating,
Yes.
then in all that cases, we wait 3 months.
3 months, right? Yes.
وَالْأَمَةُ شَهْرَانِ,
Yes.
and for the slave woman, there's 2 months.
Right. Yes. Well, the slave woman gets a little bit less on the iddah, on the waiting period. And keep in mind, the iddah, what happens is when the husband pronounces divorce on his wife, it's not over. They have to wait. The wife has to wait the iddah, another term for the iddah. Then she can get married to somebody else.
Yes.
And also in Islam, you have 3 divorces. So if it's the first time they do it, it's not over. During that iddah time, he can take her back. We had a lesson about that previously on the Raja going back. So that's what that refers to. How long is that iddah, that they have that buffer period before the divorce is finalized? That's what that refers to. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained, so that you have reconciliation from people, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willing, inshallah. Not have something that happened out of suddenly and then that's it, they're separated forever. Okay, inshallah, so let's go to number.
ويشرع التربص مع العدة في 3 مواضع. So it is legislated to wait extra along with the iddah in 3 situations, right? إحداها. The first one is إذا ارتعت حيض المرأة لا ترد ما رفعه فإنها تربص 9 أشهر ثم تعد عدة الآيسات. Okay, so if a woman starts menstruating, so she was menstruating, and then she never completes her menstruation, like she finishes her first one, then after she finishes her third one, and then she doesn't finish her third one because she's in menopause now, so they're saying she has to wait 9 months, and then she has to wait 3 more months.
Well, let's say the woman just started her menopause,
Yeah.
and the husband divorces her. The question comes up: is she pregnant or not?
We don't know.
Don't know. So that's why he says that you wait the 9 months to make sure that she's not pregnant.
Right.
Because she might be. Who knows? Maybe she's still not in the state of menopause. She's just pregnant.
She could just be pregnant.
Right. Yes.
How would you know?
So that's what he says. So not to wait, just the 3 months and assume that she's in the menopause, but you don't know for sure if she's not. So that's what the Sheikh is saying. In that scenario, where a person, they're in doubt whether she's in menopause or she's pregnant.
SubhanAllah. So she has to wait a whole year, really.
Yes, it waits 9 months to make sure that she's not pregnant. Then an extra 3 months.
Allah.
Then the 3 months starts
And this
after
whole
that.
time, the guy has to keep feeding her,
Yes,
and clothing
yes.
her, and giving her a
Yes.
place.
Yes.
You take her back anytime.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
So it's the 9 months that they wait to make sure that she's not pregnant, and then then the iddah
Then
starts
you-
after that, 3 months extra. That's what
Allah
he says. And
Okay.
then, that's what the Sheikh, he says. Nowadays, maybe the ulama, they can get together because now you have, you can
You can
determine
test.
if the woman is pregnant or not.
Yeah.
So there might be a different ruling in today's day and standard. But this is in the time of Ibn Qudamah, where he made that, and people, they didn't have those things,
That makes sense.
the pregnancy tests and
Nowadays,
things like
maybe
that.
you say, hey, after 1 or 2 missed
Yes.
periods, you can do a pregnancy test.
Right.
She's not pregnant,
Yes.
then you can
Yes.
just count for 3.
Yes, then you can make sure that the woman is in menopause, not in a state of pregnancy.
That makes
Because
sense.
when a woman is pregnant, she doesn't have the menstruation. So, so the question is the woman pregnant or is she in menopause? So then, so now that's why he said to be sure, then wait the 9 months and then do the 3 months of a woman that doesn't menstruate after that. That's when that case.
Okay, well,
So
in
that's in
Arab-
addition to the iddah, that's what he
Right.
says,
وإن عرفت ما رفع الحيض
Mhm.
لم تزول تزل تزل لم
Mhm.
تزل في عدتها حتى يعود الحيض فتعد فتعتد به.
Yes.
So if she knows she's not in menopause, so for some reason she knows she's not in menopause, she is confined to the iddah until she menstruates, and then she observes the iddah with it.
Yes. So what happens is sometimes the women, they don't menstruate a month. So these things about the women, it's like, it's
Hit or
not,
miss.
sometimes it's not consistent
All
sometimes.
kinds of things can
They,
happen. Yeah.
they might have a shorter menstruation period or longer, things like that. And they also have abnormal bleeding, things like that. So if she knows that she's not at that point where she completely stopped menstruating, maybe her menstruation is going to come back a month later or 2 months later. But that happens sometimes to
She
the
has to
women.
wait. She has to wait.
She leaves off menstruation, and then a month or 2 later it comes back again. And so in that scenario, then the person, they wait until it comes back, and then you do the 3 menstrual cycles after that. That's what the Sheikh mentioned
So
in that
meaning
scenario.
she would just count. So her first one hits, and then
Right.
the second one hits, and the third one's just not
Right,
showing
yeah.
up. So they gotta wait,
Yes.
and then the third one shows up, and you're done.
Right, yes. That's what, I'd like that example, or starting with the first one maybe, because if she's
Yeah.
in a state of sickness or something like that, didn't menstruate, but she knows she's not in menopause. She knows that
Maybe she's too young for it. Yeah.
Because she might have had that happen before. So she said, the same thing's happening to me again. I'm not
Okay.
menstruating this time. Then, that's what the Sheikh said. Then wait until she menstruates, then,
Then count.
the counts after that.
Got it.
That
Okay. So
specific
now the
scenario.
second case, a thani,
Mhm.
a woman of.
This is if it's the iddah is longer than the normal,
Yes,
the
yes,
other
yes.
preceding
So the
ones.
second time in which they can be longer.
Yes.
امرأة المنقول الذي فقد في مهلكة أو
Mhm.
من بين أهله فلم يعلم خبره وتربص 4 سنين.
Yes.
A second is a woman of missing man that went missing in a disaster,
Yes.
or between his family, or those in his family, they do not know the news of him. She waits 4 years.
Yes.
So a man just disappeared or died in something, we don't know if he died
yes.
or not.
Yes, no, if that's the case. Because back then, when people, they used to travel, it would take a long time to travel. Just to go for Hajj, for most people, it would take more than 6 months to go to the Hajj. And you travel in other places, it would take a year or longer. So if that's the case, if her husband went on a journey someplace, and then people, they hear of a disaster over there, don't know what happened to him, they don't know whether he died or not, maybe he's still around or not, or maybe something else happened, and she's got to wait 4 years. 4 years. And that's what the ulama, they say, for a man that's gone for a long time, they have to wait quite long, And over here, the Sheikh says in the Hanbali school, 4 years they have to wait
Based on what? 4 years based on?
before that her
No, but why?
iddah
Why
is
4
over.
years?
Well, he might come back.
No, but why not 5 years? Why not 3 years?
Well, that's what they went by. That's the ruling that they had in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just like when you have the 4 months, the man should not leave his wife more than 4 months. Why 4 months? But it's written. That's what they used to do in the time of Rasulullah.
No, but
sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
is there actually like a nalsa text that says, hey, there's 4 months, or they're just making it up? Because I know the Hanafis, they got a lot of flack because they said, no, she has to wait until he would naturally die.
Yes.
Allahu Akbar. Say he's in 30-year-old man disappears.
Yes.
Now she has to wait, how long? 30 years?
Yeah.
40
The
years?
thing is, we follow the people that follow this. They follow the Hanbali school, and this is the ruling from the Hanbali school, from Ahmad Ibn Hanbal
Yeah.
and Ibn Qudamah. So people
They said 4 years.
they follow that. A person, they can research the source. How did he come up with that? Was that his ijtihad, his judgment?
Yeah.
To wait 4 years, or was that based on some text or some other things that they say? But nowadays, people, they follow their mother, and their mother says that, and you build upon it. Inshallah.
So
that's
in
what
the
he
Hanbali
says.
school, it looks like there's 4 years she has to wait.
Yes.
ثم تعتد
Yes.
للوفاة.
Yes.
So then she has to wait 4 months, 10 days
10 days. Yes.
after.
Yes.
4 years.
So he's saying that to make certain that the person is gone, wait 4 years. 'Cause maybe that's what happened at that time, because people, they used to take a long time to travel.
Allahu Akbar. Look at this. Then there's more.
Yes.
وإن فقد في غير هذا كالمسافر للتجارة ونحوها لم تنكح حتى تتيقن
Yes.
موته. So if he went missing by something else, like not like a disaster,
Right.
or not
Yes.
like some kind of accident or something,
Mhm.
he just went missing on like a business trip, she has to wait until she verifies his death.
Yes. So usually people, they go on a business trip, they go with other people, then they're going to come back. Then when the people come back, they'll give her the news, what happened to the
That
person.
makes sense.
And then, then she can verify that the person, they passed away, and then, and that's it. She doesn't have to wait 4 years in that particular scenario. She
Okay,
verifies that he passed
so
away.
like, let's say he was going with some people, he's gonna come back in 6 months or whatever, then those
Right.
people come back,
Yes.
then
they
you
can
know,
tell them,
right?
yes.
But what if those people never come back, cause like the whole of them died?
Yeah. Well, sometimes people, they go to a place and there's an earthquake or something like that. There's a
Yeah.
disaster that nobody comes back.
Right.
You just heard there was a disaster over there.
Or they got killed by bandits or something,
Yes,
how would you
yes.
know?
Yeah, a disaster. That's what he mentioned in the previous one. That
Right.
4 years ago was a disaster over there. And the person, they don't know the news of the person. Is he missing or is he not
Allahu
missing?
Akbar.
And then so you wait the 4 years. But nowadays, maybe the ulama nowadays, they look at the situation nowadays, they'll have a different ruling. Because you have communications now. You have
Right, you can just
telephone,
call them up, hey, what happened?
Right, and then
Right.
you can see, if he passed away or not, then you can make that determination. And if she makes that determination, if she knows that he passed away, then that's it. 4 months and 10
Sometimes you
days.
hear about these cases where, like you went to, I don't know, like Walmart or something, and then boom, he disappeared. Right?
Yes,
No
yes.
one heard of him. No one knows there's an accident. Or boom, just disappeared like random, right? Like maybe he got kidnapped. Who knows, right? And then they kill him or whatever. But you don't know what happened. He's just completely just a missing person, right?
Mhm.
So in that case, would she wait 4 years in the Hanbali school?
It
Like the
depends on
police are looking for him. They're posted everywhere.
You gotta look at the scenario over there and make the judgment on that. 'Cause
Yeah.
it could be different cases, that are involved. It could be the person went to jail, or it could be the person. So you gotta look at the more details of the case, and then make the judgment based on what the ulama they said in the past.
Okay.
Because it could be a person that went to Walmart, and then maybe he got killed or something like that, and then maybe he went to jail, or maybe ran away. So there's a lot of different
Sometimes
circumstances.
you hear
that
about
could
these
occur.
cases where people just disappear, like no trace. Like you don't know, you have no idea what happened. You know what I'm saying? Like just missing. Like you hear about these missing persons cases, right? Just completely missing. There's no one knows where they went. No one knows what happened. No one knows that any disaster happened. You just don't hear from them again, ever. But in that case, I guess we would go with the 4 years, right? If there's no knowledge whatsoever, would we go with the 4 years?
If a person they don't hear from, usually you could probably assume that the person is dead. Usually it's very unlikely the person is going to be alive if you didn't communicate with the person, or a person they don't know. You can make that assumption.
Sometimes the men just run away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's problematic, in that case.
He
The
just
man
ran
wants to
away.
leave his wife, so just leaves her hanging.
Yeah.
So then that's a problem. That's what the sheikh, he says, he's got to wait 4 years.
Yes.
In that case, so that's really
He should just
terrible.
divorce her and go if he needs to go.
Well, she can go to the judge, and maybe the judge might, might
Well,
say
if
that
she thinks he ran away, yeah.
right, because if he leaves her more than 4 months, then he's doing wrong to her. So she can go to the judge, and
I get a fuss.
even if he's alive, we can say, oh no, he left me more than 4 months, and the judge can look into the scenario. We talked about that before.
Yes.
on that, so she can do that and get the annulment, for that.
Okay.
But this is the case. The Sheikh, he said that if he went somewhere and there was a disaster that happened, a natural disaster, I don't know if he's alive or not, and didn't come back. He didn't wait 4 years, so he might come back before the 4 years. But if he doesn't come back in 4 years, then you assume that he's dead. That's what the Sheikh said.
الثالث إذا تابت المرأة بعد انقضاء عدتها لظهور أمارات الحمل لم تنكح حتى تزول الريبة. So
Yes.
if the woman is in doubt after her iddah is over, then she feels like she's pregnant or appears to be pregnant based on
Yes.
outward signs.
Yes.
She does not marry until the doubt is gone.
Right. Yes.
Someone just has like a serious case of constipation or something.
Right.
Right. I don't
Right.
know.
Yes. So what happens is, let's say a husband divorces his wife, and then the iddah period is over. Then the woman is thinking, oh, maybe I'm pregnant. Maybe I don't know I'm pregnant or not. Then what happens is, then it's not. Then the iddah it resumes until she's sure that she's not pregnant. That's what the
Right.
Sheikh
She
said.
has to wait until she's sure that she's not pregnant.
Right, yes. Because if she's pregnant, then the iddah is when she gives birth to the child. And then
Right.
when that happens, then she's sure that she's not pregnant, then then the iddah is done. Because the thing is, if she is pregnant and marries somebody else, that's not appropriate. No, it's not allowed to, like the hadith says, to water the plant of somebody else, or
Right.
la sikaya.
So she may be pregnant, you're not supposed to marry her.
No, the person, they can't have sexual relation with a woman that's pregnant from somebody else. That's not allowed. So if she's pregnant and her iddah is over, well, it means that she can get married to somebody else, but then she's doubtful. Maybe I'm still pregnant, then it's not allowed for her to marry somebody else. She has to wait until she's sure that she's not pregnant, and then you could say her iddah is over, get married to somebody else.
فإن نكحت لم يصح النكاح. And if she marries in this situation, her marriage is not correct.
Right, yes.
That means it doesn't count.
Yes, because she's not sure that she's not pregnant or not. Then if she does marry in that situation, marriage is void.
Invalid.
Invalid marriage,
Okay.
yes. Because she's still pregnant from the previous man, so now what? No, she's got 2 husbands now, right? This is what happens, so that's problematic, no?
Okay, وإن
So that's what he said.
ارتبط بعد نكاحها لم يبطل نكاحها إلا إذا علمت أنها نكحت وهي حامل. And if doubts arise after the marriage, so she completed her iddah, then after that she got married, and now all of a sudden she feels like she's pregnant, or she feels doubtful, her marriage is not voided unless she knows for sure that she got married while she was pregnant.
Yes, so this is, this is like repeating the same thing before.
Yeah.
It's after she got married, then she has the doubts. Then the marriage still continues.
Because unless she knows that she got married
Yes.
while she was pregnant.
Yes, if she did it on purpose, she knew that she was pregnant and she got married, the marriage is
The
canceled
marriage
out.
will cancel. Okay.
Right, but this case here, if she didn't know about that, she got married to somebody else, and then it's not canceled in that case. No.
ومتى نكحت معتدة فنكاحها باطل.
Yes. So when the woman,
ويفرق بينهما.
yes. So if the woman, she is in her iddah is not over, and she gets married to somebody else, that marriage is void and they're separated. Doesn't count, because she's not allowed to get married in her iddah. And then also you have the right of the husband; he can take her back in her iddah if it's not the 3rd divorce. So they say that marriage is canceled.
Yes.
If she gets married, if she's in her iddah and she happened to do that, that marriage doesn't count. It's invalid.
وإن فرق بينهما قبل الدخول أتمت عدة الأولى.
Yes.
And if they separate before the intimacy, before the consummation, then she should complete her first iddah.
Right, yes, so that's the scenario. Then
Even
it
if they
mentions the
did a
second one.
contract, the contract is void.
Right,
You
yes.
just go back to the regular iddah.
Yes. And before she had the consummation with the second husband, and she just completes her iddah with the first one. That's what it says, before the consummation.
Subhanallah.
Then it talks about if it's after the consummation. I think it's the next one, number
Yeah.
24.
وإن كان بعد الدخول بنت بنت على عدة الأولى من حين دخل بها الثاني واستأنفت العدة للثاني وله نكاحها بعد انقضاء العدتين. So if after intimacy go by the first iddah from when the second husband had intimacy with her, then resume the second iddah, then he can marry her after the completion of the two iddah. What does this mean? I don't understand.
Okay, yeah, this is a hard explanation on that. So the iddah is after the woman has sexual relation and separates from him. So she says that, let's say the first husband divorced her, didn't finish the iddah, she married the second one, and had the sexual relation with the second one, and the iddah starts from the first one after they had the sexual relation with the second one.
So I don't know what that means. So
3 menstrual cycles after that.
After that,
After
then
she
finishes her first.
And then after that, she has another iddah on the second husband.
Okay.
And then after that, she can get married.
To who? The first one or the last one?
Well, she's gonna get married to the second one.
What?
Yeah, this is a little bit confusing what they say on this.
So after that, is she free to marry the first one or the second one?
Maybe either one, because both iddahs are over,
no
so maybe it's
whatever she wants.
she can get married to any one of them.
But she has to wait double iddah.
But usually she's going to get married to the second one, because
That's
she's
what we
got
want,
the
she
first one,
wants,
and she's
right?
the second one. So that's usually the scenario for it.
Allahu Akbar.
So
So
that's what the
essentially,
Shaykh said.
what's happening is if she married someone and basically
Yes.
consummated marriage with him
Yes.
in her iddah, then she has to repeat the first iddah.
Yes, because normally speaking, the iddah is 3 menstrual cycles, and that
Right.
makes sure that she's not pregnant.
Right.
So then when she had the relation with the second one, then, it's possible that she got pregnant. So then you went to 3 cycles. That's
The
what, I
first
think that's the
iddah,
wisdom
then the
behind it.
second iddah.
Then the second,
So she's 6 menstrual cycles. She's
right,
waiting.
yes. Oh, yeah, that's
After
what it looks like.
consummation.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
And then she can marry. And
Yes.
what are they saying? بعد انقضاء
Yes.
وله نكاحها.
Yes, that you get married after the completion of both iddahs,
Allahu Akbar.
Yes, it becomes longer, her iddah in that case, if she has,
So I should wait
so
first
what
time.
happens. If she did that, she got married to somebody in her iddah, first iddah wasn't over, then, she's got to wait 2 iddahs, for 2 long periods. That's what the Shaykh said.
وإن أتت بولد من إحداهما انقضت به عدته واعتدت للآخر.
Yes.
Allahu Akbar. She has a child from one of them. The iddah of that one expires, and then the iddah of the other one begins. How does she know whose child it is, though?
Yeah, that's questionable,
Right. That's the whole point.
We would assume that it's from the first husband, I guess.
Maybe.
Yes.
Depending on the time.
Yes. Yes, that's what the Shaykh said. So if she was pregnant from the first one and he divorced her, and she got married to somebody before giving birth to a child, then the iddah is when she gives birth to a child, and then she has another iddah
Allah.
on top of that before she can get married again after. That's what the Shaykh said. So, because for a woman that's pregnant, her iddah is when she gives birth to a child, so that's from the first one, and then she's got to do a second iddah for the second one.
Okay. وإن أمكن أن يكون منهما أرى القافة وألحق بمن ألحقوا منهما وانقضت به عدتها منه واعتدت للآخر. So if it's possible, go see like the expert, like the gynecologist.
Yes, who the child belongs to. Does it belong to the first husband or the second husband? And then finish do the iddah for that particular husband.
Al-Qafa, who's a Qafa?
Qafa is a genealogist that could.
Genealogist or gynecologist? Oh, genealogist.
Genealogist. What they could do is they could look at the different features of a person. They could determine who the father was. That's what he said. So he said if the child is born and then one of those people, Qafa, he could look at the features of the child and make the determination who was the father. And then, that iddah is over for that father who it belongs to.
So at the time of Ahmad Ibn Hanbal and Ibn Qudamah, rahimahullah, they didn't have like genes and DNA tests. So they were like looking physically at the person, figuring.
No, they had that in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People they could determine things. They would look at people's feet and their hands.
Okay, based on signs.
And then they could determine, who the father was or what family they belonged to.
Okay.
And that was also, I think, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he was an expert in that. I think
Really?
that he was able to determine the family tree of people by looking at. Nowadays you have genealogists, you have genes of people, you have the DNA and things like that. So then you look at the genes and you can determine where they're from. But back then they looked at the features of people, and they looked at their features, they can determine.
Okay, what do they mean by the finishing the iddah though? Can he still take her back or what?
Well, that iddah is over for the one whose child
No,
that she
I
gave birth to.
understand. So let's say that the first husband divorces her, and then she marries another person and has sex with him, right? So,
Yes,
so in that case, can the first husband still take her back?
Oh, she's got a divorce from the second husband, I guess, if that's got to be over.
It's over, right? Or
Yeah, the marriage doesn't count because she got married in the case of the.
So he can still take her back
Well,
if he wants
yeah,
to.
because the iddah it's returnable.
Right.
So she's still in that stage where it's returnable.
So then once
So
she
the first
finishes
person
her
can take it
first
back.
husband iddah, now she has to go to the second husband iddah,
Right,
and
yes.
he can take her back.
She's got to do another iddah also.
Yeah, so he can take her back in the second iddah, the second husband.
Well, the second one didn't count, so it's like she doesn't have any
Oh, it
relation to
doesn't
the
count,
second
so he
husband
has
at
no
all.
rights.
Because she got married in the time that was in her iddah, so that's void completely. But the sheikh said that she's got to wait another iddah, another term of iddah, wait longer before she can get married again. No, that's what the sheikh he said. The wisdom behind it, Allahu Alam, but this is, in the Hanbali school by Ibn Qudamah. And sometimes in the Hanbali school you have different sections of the Hanbali school. So maybe I'm not sure if there's another section in the Hanbali school, so maybe you can look in there for
Right.
another view. But this is. This is what Ibn Qudamah, he said, one of the main student of Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, and he has a very extensive explanation in another book called the Mughni. The Mughni is 40 volumes, So this here is just a quick synopsis, of the rulings. If we go to the Mughni, it's like so much information that he mentioned. And not only does he mention the rulings there, he talks about the other schools too.
Allahu Akbar.
So, if you read the Mughni, it's a vast amount of information. So if you look in there, then you can see like extensive details that he goes through about these issues. So this one here, what happens is the book that we're covering is called the Umdah. And Umdah is a very small book, Then he has one that's the Muqni', I believe that's the name of it. That's a middle book, which is a few volumes. Then you have the Mughni, which is 40 volumes. So that's what you have.
You said the middle book was called what?
I think it's called the Muqni'.
Muqni',
I
right?
think
Like
that's the term
qana',
for it.
right.
Maybe it's a different
Muqni'.
one. Maybe I'm mentioning the wrong name. But there's
Okay,
an
Muqni', and then
intermediate
Mughni
book.
is like it's sufficient.
Mughni is a humongous one. A lot of
This is
details.
the Umdah. What does Umdah mean?
Umdah means the bone or like a backbone.
So like a skeletal structure.
Right. Yes.
And then
the
you got
basic.
the enough, and then you
Right,
got the
yes.
sufficient.
Right. Yes. That's the right. Exactly. So that's what I was saying. You look in there and see the details that he goes through on these things. And then he talks about these things. No, this is very complex information, even just from the basic.
My head's already spinning.
That's it, mashallah. Okay, inshallah, do you have any comments or questions on this issue, on the iddah of the woman?
No,
No,
I think the only thing that's of concern is like what changes because of our ability to test for pregnancy, our
Right,
ability
yes,
to test for
yeah.
genealogy, and so on.
Yes, so the scholars have to get together and make the ruling. That's why you have, one of the rulings is you have the ijma of the ulama, the consensus of the ulama, so they can make the rulings. And also a lot of things were pertinent to his time from Ibn Qudamah, and you have different cultural things and scientific things that happen. Nowadays you have, new situations, so you got to base it on those things also. Like the example that he gave, you have to wait 4 years, for a person they went into a disaster.
You can call them up.
Nowadays, people, they can get the information within minutes, what happened. So then you gotta put that into consideration now, so the ruling might change in today's situation. But the thing is, people, they have to continue from the shiyukh and ulama. It's like a tree. The tree grows, the branches they grow, and they continue from the previous things. So you have the Quran, you have Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba, and then you have the Imams, and then keep growing, and they continue from it. So we base the judgments based on the things that our shiyukh they used to say beforehand, and build upon that. Inshallah, continue on it. That's why you have the Hanbali school, and you have rulings particular to Hanbali school, and you build out on Hanbali school. And then, inshallah. All right, inshallah. Okay, let's stop over here. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfirullah, wallahu ta'ala alam. Allah knows best. Jazakallah.